Everybody, we are Rough Draft Research. You are the audience, and together we are on a quest for dynasty domination. Coming back to you this week, a little bit of a frantic week for both of us here, so we're going to be a little bit of a quick episode. I've got some school, Dan's got some kids going on, just a lot going on for us. So, but we're here every week, just like we always are. And Dan, tell them what we're getting into.
Okay, this week we're trying to get real. The season's coming up, news is starting to pick up, real things are happening. And so we want to do a little bit of a realistic expectation for the rookies coming in. The year one guys. You get pretty excited when you're prepping for your rookie draft. You really want these guys. It's a new addition to your dynasty team, but we're going to try and take a little bit of time and think about what we're going to get into for like year one. Like what can you expect year one for these guys? Obviously the long-term production is where you win with rookies, but sometimes you get in a situation where you start relying on a year one guy. And so I just want to kind of get into it a little bit and see what we can expect from like, I'd say the top 10, 15 rookies coming at us. So
yeah, sounds good. All right. You want to get started in the wide receiver room then?
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like a good plan. I think we're covering like 4 guys in this wide receiver class.
Okay.
And so I just want to preface this one, wide receiver specifically, because there's plenty of history of like kind of high-end first-round wide receivers in the past couple of years, and instead of taking a few years to get going, they're kind of hitting the ground running. So a lot of people are looking for that. So I'm just going to look back at the past 5 years and see some of the top performances. And I'd say, you got Justin Jefferson. I think everybody knows about this guy. Hit the rookie year, finished up as a wide receiver 6, and that was pretty impressive. But I think you got to look at the situation. The competition level for him was pretty favorable. He had Adam Thielen on that team hitting you with the triple-digit targets. But the next guy on that team, as far as wide receivers, was Chad Beebe at 30 targets. So it's basically a situation where it's maxed out. So we'll see if any guys fit into that mold this year. But other than that, top guys from the past couple of years, you got Jamar Chase. Now he's a wide receiver 3. He was also a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. And that was kind of like, to be expected. And then you got Jalen Waddle, who was a wide receiver 13, his rookie year. And then if you look at the depth chart, it's kind of like a JJ situation where he had Devonta Parker. And then that was the only wideout over 40 targets on that Miami team. So, and all these guys had, pretty solid quarterbacks that were able to support a top end receiver. So just kind of painting the picture so we can get our realistic expectations. But outside of those 3 guys, no one's been able to crack the top 20 their rookie year over the past 5 years. And, some of these guys have been pretty spectacular, right? Like your Garrett Wilsons, your Calvin Ridley, even CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, and Chase Claypool. So these are some of your top guys from the past couple of years. And if you look at like the situations were different, like AJ Brown and Garrett Wilson, they didn't have the competition, but they also didn't have awesome quarterbacks. And then you had Claypool comes in with Big Ben, and then CeeDee Lamb. Obviously, we understand that situation. Matt Ryan with Calvin Ridley. So they had the quarterbacks, but they didn't necessarily have the target shares. And I think this year we're getting into guys that are similar to that, right? So we've got 4 first-round wideouts that we're going to be discussing. They were all picked in succession, like number 20 through number 23. And it's kind of wild. So I don't know. We could just start at the top. The first one drafted was Jackson Smith and Jigba at the pick number 20 to Seattle. So I don't know. I give you the opportunity to talk. That was a big block of words from me.
This wide receiver class is super interesting. Like you said, they've just been starting so hot lately. And again, I think as culture tends to do, we are starting to expect that to be the standard. And I just want to say temper expectations even for these top tier guys. Like that's not normally how they come out. You mentioned it, Garrett Wilson last year had an awesome season, not a top 20 receiver. Like it just happens. And someone like Jackson Smith-Njigba, I think he's going to be a dominant receiver in the NFL. I think he's definitely going to be the number one wide receiver in Seattle at some point, even overtaking DK Metcalf eventually. Not this year, I don't think. But when I look at the Seattle roster, I just think someone's losing targets. I don't know who it is, but in the last 5 seasons, Seattle's highest targeted third wide receiver was David Moore in 2018, and he had 53 targets. Over that time, the average is 43 for the third wide receiver in Seattle. Now, however, if you go 5 years before that, it was a lot higher. It was 57.4. And then between 15 and 17, it was actually 68 was the average for the third receiver for 3 years there. And that was when Doug Baldwin and Tyler Lockett were going off. And I kind of think that might be closer to what we see here with Jackson Smith-Njigba. He kind of comes in, profiles as like ready to go in the NFL. You already have Lockett as a great number 2, potentially sliding to number 3 when Njigba gets going. And then you have DK Metcalf as the guy there. I see kind of all 3 of them getting pretty decent target numbers. And I could see JSN getting close to like 70 or higher, depending on when he takes wide receiver 2. So I do think it's going to be closer to that. I think you're going to have 3 solid wide receivers in Seattle this year. And I think JSN ends up being the wide receiver 2 by the end of the year.
Yeah, I like that, man. I went comp crazy with with mine. And so in this Seattle situation, and this is a very recent comp anyway, but kind of the same deal to me was I put like Jahan Dotson type situation,
Okay.
right? Where personally I was a little worried by the landing spot because there's Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel, and I'm like, where is he relevant? And I'm you're looking at DK and Lockett, and you're like, obviously those guys are going to get the same kind of run they always get. But then Dotson come in and just capitalize on like red zone type opportunities. And so I'm looking for JSN to develop like that kind of a niche, and probably in a similar situation I could see him as a red zone kind of guy. And I mean, honestly, I'm not going to be shocked if he hits like I want to say like 900 yards and 8 touchdowns on this first year. So
I don't think that's unreasonable.
He might be a back end wide receiver 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's completely realistic. Like for him, I just think he, like, again, I said it last year with Olave and Wilson, they came in, just look like, and in London to a lesser extent, but they look like just true NFL caliber receivers. I think Njigba is the one out of this class who definitely will just look like he belongs in the NFL from the jump. And that speaks to him being able to get a decent target load in year 1.
Heck yeah, man. Well, I'm just going to go, I guess, in the order they were drafted.
Okay.
Not really. I wanted to go in the order they're being drafted, but we'll just go to the 21st overall NFL drafted player in Quentin Johnston.
Okay.
So yeah, he was the second wideout drafted, and we all know he's with the Chargers, and that's a pretty electric offense.
Hey, electric. I like what you did there.
Yeah, it's very charged. But just keeping with the comps, man, and it goes through the depth chart and everything. I'm really staring at this guy, remembering like CeeDee Lamb's rookie year, right? Where he lands with Dallas. He had a competent quarterback in Dak, just like Justin Herbert is a very competent quarterback. But he also ended up on a team that had 3 triple-digit wide receivers as far as targets go on that team, with Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper. And then you're looking at Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, that if everyone stays healthy, there's a world where this could enter 3 triple-digit target guys again, with the addition of Zeke getting like 70+ targets. And then you got Austin Eckler, who's going to be at least doing that. All of that, I mean, ironically, is kind of weird, right? Because the OC from that Dallas team, right, is there with the Bolts now. So I don't know, man. I'm kind of like the players aren't apples to apples between
Mhm.
CeeDee Lamb and Quentin Johnson,
Not
but
at
the
all.
situation favors like a workload kind of target share that could end up being similar, man. And I don't think he's going to score as much as JSN, but I do think he's good for at least 900 yards coming out. I think
Okay.
they're going to overload him. I've said it a few times that it's outs for Keenan Allen, who's getting older, and Mike Williams, who's got injury issues. So
Mhm.
I think they overload the rookie just to make sure he can handle it going forward, because I doubt these three wideouts are lining up for the 2024 season.
I'm with you there, man. And there's something to say. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are fairly like injury plagued guys. So like there's a chance that Johnson kind of gets thrust in even more than we expect just because he's available and because the other guys aren't. With Kellen Moore being there, it's super exciting. Johnson was not a guy that I was super into coming out of the draft, but like the more he sits and the more he looks good in that baby blue with the number 1
Oh
jersey
my
and the
god.
Kellen Moore launching it down the field with Justin Herbert, like I'm starting to buy in, man. And this is an interesting run we're going to go on right here. As you know, and as listeners are about to know, I did end up trading Drake London in a league for the 1-7 and a future first. And right at the 1-7 in Superflex draft, you're pretty much getting your choice of one of these three guys if the mocks go the way they're supposed to. So I'm interested to see where we land on these guys, but I'm starting to build steam on the Johnson train myself.
Yeah, man, I've always been there. I want to see him on an NFL field, because if some of the question marks can be addressed by like coaching, and some of the strengths can translate immediately, then I mean you're looking at a monster here.
Yeah,
So,
could be.
but all right, how about we get into Zay Flowers, huh?
Okay.
22nd pick in the
Yeah.
NFL draft, the third overall wide receiver. Okay, and I'm looking at this team, the Ravens, and there's been so much said by me, by everyone, with the new OC,
Mm-hmm.
and Lamar is seemingly happy, whether that means he will voluntarily play a full season or not, or what the run game is going to look like. Obviously, you got Rashad Bateman, clearly still not 100%, and then you got Odell Beckham Jr., who's took a season off due to injury, and
Mm-hmm.
so I see I don't know, man. The door's wide open for Zay Flowers to come in. And I don't know. This one is a stretch. I'm getting really weird with my comps. It's like a numbers game to me more than like a skills game. But I'm kind of putting him in like a Brandon Ayuk situation,
Ooh.
where he landed with the 49ers, and Debo was there, right? Established guy. And then Kendrick Bourne was really doing some good things that
Yeah, he
year as
was.
well. And then you've got an elite tight end in there with Kittle compared
Mm-hmm.
to Mark
Mark Andrews.
Andrews.
Yep.
But what it really did was it allowed him an opportunity to find a nice role in that offense and actually lead that team in targets that year.
Mm.
There was some injuries pretty much all around to every pass catcher on that team, but without having to be the number one or being leaned on heavily, I think it gave him an opportunity to kind of just like fit into the scheme as like whatever worked for him. And
Mm-hmm.
I see that opportunity coming in for the Ravens, so much so that I think I'm giving him the highest yardage. I think he's going to be 1,000 yard
Really?
receiver
Okay.
for sure. Now the touchdowns, I'm only giving him 6 because I
Okay.
don't want to get over load on that, because we know that the ground game and Lamar's feet are going to be
Mm-hmm.
accounting for a lot of that, and Mark Andrews, with the touchdowns as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to be highly productive, man. Probably the leading yardage out of these 4 guys, in my opinion.
Interesting. So listeners will know that Zay is a guy I had a kind of a crush on coming out of the draft. I didn't fall in love with his landing spot. It's just kind of weird. And at the time, we didn't know exactly what was going on with Lamar and everything, but he's just such a clean route runner, and his ability to get open does kind of lend to that offense, like a more like let's get open, make it easy for Lamar to hit you, and then like even on the scramble drills, like he's going to be able to maneuver around the field. He's moving up my rankings a lot too. This is a tough spot for these three guys. I think they all have their strengths and weaknesses, and they're all completely different players and completely different squads that they're going into. Like, it's just an interesting time, but I could see Zay Flowers being Lamar's favorite target by the end of this year, like you're saying. I just don't know exactly what Lamar's favorite target means.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that Ayuk year, like no one had triple digits. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it was nice and it's promising and it's great, but it doesn't actually mean that he's like a league winning player, you know, which is what you're hoping for in the first round. So, okay, I guess we're bringing up the last wide receiver here in Jordan Addison.
Yep.
You know, 23rd pick, fourth wide receiver off the board, obviously going to the Vikings. And this one, I love the comp. It's really fun for me to do these things. Whatever, take it as you will. I don't care. I'm having a blast. But I'm going with Calvin Ridley. Okay. So he jumps in, and then Julio Jones gets over 170 targets that rookie year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Mohamed Sanu actually out targeted Calvin Ridley his rookie year. And if this doesn't line up exactly with how it's going to go with Justin Jefferson and KJ Osborne, man, I think that's like 100% the thing. And Austin Hooper was on that team, had that little breakout year with 88 targets. I think Hawkinson's pretty much right in line with that. And in that situation, Ridley was able to grab 10 touchdowns that rookie year. And that's what I'm looking for Addison, man. I think I give him a solid 8 touchdowns, but I'm limiting him less than, I don't think he breaks the 800 yard mark because that volume and those yards are going to be going to Jefferson. So, but yeah, man, once I got into looking at some of these guys, Kirk Cousins versus, Matt Ryan at the time. Sorry, man. Matt Ryan is kind of like too easy for me to compare those guys.
Yeah.
So I'm just seeing like situationally, I could see him situationally 1-for-1 with that Ridley year.
All right, man, you did not make it easy for me. Obviously Addison has the weird arrest for the driving and everything going on right now. That seems like a non-factor so far. It doesn't seem like anything's going to come over that. But yeah, I mean, the Ridley thing, that makes it really tough. Addison was starting to force his way back into my like thought process just because of, I mean, he's such a clean route runner and such a good player. It just I feel like Jefferson obviously puts a firm cap on like what he can do, but like you're saying, Calvin Ridley was crushing it down there in Atlanta, so it's tough to say that for sure. So
Julio Jones, Justin Jefferson, a couple of JJs, you know what I mean?
It almost works too perfectly.
I know. It's 1-for-1.
All right. So that's our wide receivers. You want to get into some quarterbacks real quick. Quarterback tight end area. This is going to go a lot quicker. I wanted to take the lead on this just a little bit. We're going to leave CJ Stroud off, I think. This is not super flex draft. Obviously, if CJ Stroud ends up as the starter in Houston week 1, then he's going to see plenty of playing time and you're going to be able to see a ton of work out of him. But Bryce Young, the number 1 overall pick in the league, has already been named the starting quarterback of the Carolina Panthers. So, short of injury, he's coming out and he's going to be starting week 1. And I don't really know what else you could want for a super flex guy. Like, let's see him. Let's see. You're going to be able to see 17 games of Bryce Young and see exactly what this kid has and see if you want to hold on to him moving forward. In terms of what he's going to do, that's tough. The weapons kind of got stripped out from under him. They traded DJ Moore away. They traded Christian McCaffrey away. They bring in Miles Sanders, who I don't think is quite that level, obviously. The wide receiver core has some pieces on it. They draft Jonathan Mingo, Terrace Marshall, still an interesting name. They bring in Thielen as the vet presence. DJ Chark is there. So there's names, but there's not like a superstar there. And then same thing in the tight end room. Like me and you like Hayden Hurst as a potential player this year. So it's tough. But when you look at Frank Reich as a coach And you look at his first year, 2018, he had Andrew Luck. He finished second in the league in passing attempts. Now, that wasn't Andrew Luck's rookie year. We already knew that Andrew Luck was a dude. But Reich loves Bryce Young. He took him number one overall for a reason. He constantly is showering him with praise, and he's already named him the starter. I don't think he's going to be scared to throw the ball with Bryce Young. Do I think they'll finish second in the league? No, probably not. But do I think they'll finish in the better front half? Yes, absolutely. And I think as long as Bryce Young stays healthy, which admittedly is a giant, giant question mark, he's going to get the opportunities to throw 500 passes this year. I think at least like 450 to 500 passes easily. And you're going to be able to kind of make your judgment on whether or not you want to ride it out with Bryce Young after that.
Yeah, I think that Frank doesn't. I mean, I don't think he's got too many shots to like take his time. You know what I mean? He can do great things, we know that. But it didn't really work out at Indianapolis, and I don't think he's going to be playing it conservative, and that all leads to like some fireworks in the passing game. Number one overall quarterback, get your fans fired up. So I'm looking for 100% success. He'll make it work with that collection of wide receivers. There's enough potential in there to get by, you know.
And so hopefully he's up to snuff, man, because I invested in him.
As well, you should.
Speaking of quarterbacks, though, let's get into the guy that's stirring up everybody's jimmies lately. Anthony Richardson, just getting. He has not been named the starter, but I would not be surprised if that doesn't come within the next few weeks here. I think he will be. I mean, I get it. Minshew mania is always a thing, you know, but like, we got to see what Richardson can do, and I think Shane Steichen's going to want to unleash this bad boy immediately, right?
Oh yeah. Not immediately. Come on, man. I'm holding some reservations. You got to go out there and let Minshew confuse the world, you know. I can't believe he's taking snaps behind Minshew. I mean, the only real reason, in my opinion, is the lack of experience coming out of Florida. You know, we're talking like 20 games as a starter, not even really, more like closer to 12.
Yeah.
And so he's developing, and obviously the raw talent and his abilities are going to be capitalized as time goes on. But coming into your first season as a pro with the limited experience, I think it'd be in their best interest to give them some time to absorb.
That's fair.
And I think I've been saying this all off season, and I'll probably be wrong, like I always am. But I think that they're kind of playing the long game with the Colts this year. I know that Jim Irsay is wild.
Wild
love
man.
it.
Not wanting to pay Jonathan Taylor.
Dude. He wants to be successful. But I think the way you become successful with a pretty promising coach and you know, a fourth overall, right, on the quarterback, like you got to give that time. You can't force anything with it. That's just my opinion. I think that's kind of what we're going to see. I think he's going to finish strong, but I think it's going to be a slow start to the year for him.
I hear you. I could see it going both ways, because I think the logical way is to go your way, but I also think the Colts have set up their fans the last 3 seasons with some boring ass QB play, and they might just want to shake it up to get the tickets going. But at the same time, I do think Richardson was a little more pro ready than people gave him credit for. Like, I know he only had 1 season, and I get that that's scary, but when you watch him, man, like, he doesn't run as much as I thought. Like, when he's in scramble situations, like, he seems to be looking downfield a lot more than you would have expected for a guy that's so explosive, in my opinion. And that speaks to like a guy who's a little more pro ready. Like, because that's what I'm concerned with when the running quarterback's coming out, is that all they're going to do is run the ball. That was my concern with Malik Willis, is that anytime that there was pressure, he just puts his head down and takes off, and that's fun, but it doesn't work as well in the NFL. I don't get the same vibes with Richardson. Like, he does seem to step up and then still look downfield and then maybe attempt to run out or still make a throw. So I think we'll see him pretty early, actually. Maybe not week 1, but we'll see. I think logically you make a lot of sense, but I think the Colts are going to be ready to go with this one.
Well, I think, and I could talk about Anthony Richardson all day, and I guess I'm going to take that opportunity. But I watched every game of his at Florida last year, highlights,
Mhm,
and the progress he made just in the one season through 12 games was insane. Like it
mhm,
was incredible. So if he's keeping that trajectory going, I think, yeah. I mean, obviously, I think that with Michael Pittman and Alex Pierce. I think he has what he needs
mhm,
to be successful. So
mhm.
I'm with you, man. I really just want to see Gardner Minshew have 1 week,
One more renaissance.
at least 1 week.
That's fair.
So
All right. Like I said, we're gonna leave Stroud out. So let's get into some tight ends. Additionally, a name we're gonna leave out this week that's a little interesting. Michael Mayer, we're gonna leave out. He should have a pretty strong rookie season. I think neither of us are super excited about the Raiders. I think that speaks to one of the reasons we're not bringing him up. But obviously, Michael Mayer was the most productive tight end in college, consistent wise. And
mhm.
I don't see that really stopping in the NFL. Like tight ends usually take a few years, and I'm not sold on the Garoppolo experience. But I do think Michael Mayer should kind of come in and be consistent and maybe get like about 50 to 60 targets this season, maybe a little more, depending on like if he can beat out that room. But we're going to start with three other tight ends. Well, we're not going to start with three, I guess, but we're going to start with one, and that's the guy up in Buffalo in Dalton Kincaid. And everybody's really, really excited about this one, and I was too. But I want to throw out some numbers here: 36, 50, 44, 71, and 65. Those are the target numbers for Josh Allen's tight end one every season he's been in the league. So 71's the highest. That was within the last two seasons. Even if Knox wasn't still there, that's kind of like the ceiling for Kincaid in year one, no? Like 71 to 65 best, and that's with Knox not even there. So I just think temper your expectations on Dalton Kincaid a little bit, in my opinion. I think the future glory is higher than a lot of these other tight ends. Josh Allen really wanted to bring this guy in. I just don't know that the rookie season is going to be that crazy for Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah, I'll agree with that, man. I mean, I don't think it's going to be Trey McBride levels
No.
of non-contributing, but yeah, we've got to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's different. I guess we'll get into a few running backs that I think have potential because of their landing spots.
Mm-hmm.
But man, it is like Tampa Bay levels of no leeway up in Buffalo right now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So if we just want to do what works and not take any risk, and if the young guy is doing great stuff,
Then keep
that's
playing
great.
him. But yeah,
Yeah, but
exactly. Yeah.
he's not. I think a successful Gabe Davis is going to probably keep him quiet, and a healthy Dawson Knox is probably going to keep him irrelevant. So I'm with you, man. We'll
Gotcha.
see. We'll see how it goes.
Someone who I do think could be highly productive, not only as a rookie tight end, but in the future as well. In Detroit, Sam Laporta. I think Sam Laporta has the chance to be the most productive rookie tight end in this class. Jared Goff threw the ball six most times in the league last season, despite this idea that Dan Campbell's team is a run power game. They're not. They throw the ball all the time, six most in the
Constantly.
league. And Sam Laporta's competition is Brock Wright, James Mitchell, and Shane Zylstra. Zylstra. I don't know how to say it. But
Yeah.
basically, Laporta is pretty much already on that job. If you go to our lads, if you go to ESPN depth chart, he's already on the top guy on that depth chart. And I think they're going to use him now. Do I think he's going to have like 1,000 yards? No, probably not. Do I think he could have 700 to 800 with 70 to 80 targets? Yeah, I think he could do that this season. I don't think that'd be that crazy whatsoever on the Lions. Oh,
I agree. I think he could have 1,000 yards.
Yeah, should we run that back?
I think you said everything and it's probably recorded. And as far as Sam Laporta, I think obviously this offense is going to be weirdly similar to what it was last year, even though the pieces are going to be pretty drastically different.
Mhm.
And we'll get into that a little bit when we talk about running backs. But I think that they're going to just be looking for production anywhere.
Mhm.
That's kind of the Dan Campbell thing.
Mhm.
And Sam Laporta, I think, slots straight into being able to complement that guy. So,
I think that makes sense.
yeah.
All right. And the last one we're going to get into, and it's very, very clearly Green Bay bias. I just feel like I haven't talked about Green Bay enough lately. So I'm forcing Luke Musgrave into this conversation in spite of Michael Mayer. Suck it, I guess. Deal with it,
Suck it,
audience.
Michael Mayer. Oh, the
I'm
audience.
talking some Green Bay. I feel like it hasn't been a while. So Luke Musgrave, second round pick, early second round pick for the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, we have no idea what's going to go on in Green Bay. Jordan Love is a huge question mark, but I think this idea that they're all of a sudden not going to throw the ball a ton and like none of these guys are going to get traction because Aaron Rodgers gone. I think it's a bit I don't think it makes a lot of sense because if you look at since Matt LaFleur has become the coach of the Green Bay Packers, they've finished 16th, 24th, 15th, and 18th in passing attempts. So it's not like they throw the ball more than anybody anyway. Like Matt LaFleur has always had a balanced mindset in the offense. Now, are they probably going to throw a little bit less than with Aaron Rodgers? Yeah, probably. They're probably going to rely on the run game to kind of bail Jordan Love out, at least early on. But I mean, if they finish 22nd in the league in attempts, that's probably around where I would imagine he would be with Jordan Love. That's kind of right around where they are. A little bit more with Aaron Rodgers typically, but they even finished 24th in 2020. So it is what it is. I don't think it's that crazy. And if you look at the tight end one in Green Bay during that time period, when he's been healthy, he's managed around 60 targets. All right. So that's not anything crazy. It's not amazing. Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw to tight ends very often. But let's also look at what Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur have done since they showed up. First thing they did was cut Jordy Nelson and sign Jimmy Graham to try and give Aaron Rodgers a pass-catching tight end. Then they bring in Robert Tonyan and give him 11 touchdowns. Then all we ever hear about is that they're trying to trade for Darren Waller. That's who they want in the Devontae Adams trade. They're trying to get Darren Waller. They want a pass-catching tight end, a big, long, fast pass-catching tight end, and now they take Musgrave. I think it's easy to see that he's going to get around that 60 target number. Like there's nobody else on the depth chart. He's competing with other rookie Tucker Kraft and H-back fullback hybrid Josiah DeGuara. I just see him getting that number and like I don't know, man. LaFleur's super excited about him. He just keeps talking about how different he is and how he is excited to use him over the middle and spread the ball deep with him. I just think he gets at least that 60 target number. And this is a guy that's going in like the third and fourth rounds of most super flex drafts. Again, Green Bay may not be great this season, but you're going to see these rookies a lot more than a lot of these other teams.
Yep. I'm with you. I'm not 100% sure that Tucker Kraft's
that could happen.
not gonna come out and beat him up a little bit for this competition. But either way, there's a Green Bay tight end to be had, so don't be sleeping. I'm with you 100%. So.
All right. Well, that's our tight ends. I'm gonna kick it back to you. I kind of took the lead for the middle there. You want to take us home with the running backs?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I mean, running backs, man, running backs is just like a whole different world, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no formula, there's no crystal balls. We're just gonna see what happens. So I try to do more comps because to me,
Hell yeah.
like the rookies are so uncertain. You base so much off of like college film and college production, but what that all really equals is draft capital. And once you have that, and once you have the landing spot, it's kind of like a blank slate for these guys to build on. So
yeah,
With that in mind, I mean, shit, let's not mess around too much and jump straight into Bijan Robinson. Heard of him? Uh,
No, who's that?
Texas running back. He was
Oh,
the eighth overall pick to
pretty
the
early for a running back.
Atlanta Falcons. Oh yeah, I mean, pretty early for a running back.
I
I
don't
like
want to
that.
take a guy in the top 10 that's going to give me 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns. Fuck that. Why would I want that?
Hey man, you tell me. I'm into it. You know what? I'm just going to keep talking. We know what's going on with the Falcons, right? They're
Yeah.
trying to run the ball. They're stacked with, Kyle Pitts, top 10 draft
Mm-hmm.
pick as a tight end. Drake London, top 10 as a wide receiver. Now they got Bijan Robinson, top 10 as a running back.
Stud, stud, stud.
Studs all the way around. So he's going to come out there and he's going to be awesome. And I'm going with CMC as a comp, obviously, because this guy's supposed to be the best thing since sliced bread, and his greatness has already been gained
Mm-hmm.
prior to a single snap in the NFL. That is impressive. But the real reason I'm confident to CMC is because if you look at his rookie year, it was all in the receiving game because Jonathan Stewart was
Mm.
still out touching him in a big way with the Panthers. So that is why I'm going there, because I wouldn't be surprised if Tyler Algier is the leading rusher, like rush
Mm.
attempts, rushing yards, rushing touchdowns all the way. But I also wouldn't be surprised if somehow Bijan ends up leading this team in targets, just
Mm.
like CMC did his rookie year. So I see, greatness in the future, but year one, I'd say, hey, man, don't force it. You got a guy that's doing great things in the running game. Please get what you can out of him and go forward from there. So I think Bijan's going to be amazing, but I think it's going to be mostly through the air, not on the ground as a rookie.
I mean, I could see that, and like the logic is sound. I mean, Algier crushed it last season, 4.9 yards per carry for the Falcons offense. They led the league in attempts on the ground, and so they're comfortable running Algier. You know they are. And
Mm-hmm.
like you're saying, man, Cordell Patterson last season had 31 targets in 13 games. Algier had 17 targets. If you add
Mm.
that together, that's 48 targets for the running backs. Bijan has a chance to double that number on his
For
own.
sure.
Um, he's just so electric on both sides, receiving and rushing. I tend to think they'll kind of just skew to him just being the guy. The runway for running backs is so short, and you never know when there's going to be an injury. So just maximize this opportunity. I do think your logic is sound, and it wouldn't surprise me if they went that way either. But at a minimum, I think Bijan's at least getting 60 targets through the air, if not more than that. Yeah, probably more, 70, 80, potentially higher.
Yeah, man. Well, I think CMC got like 100 and 1,213 his rookie year, and he finishes at RB10. And I think that's realistic for Bijan. I'm not putting him as a top three back in year one. I just don't think, especially with the way the running back uh, contract and just the
Mm-hmm.
career arc is going. Like, why would you almost waste this pick
Yeah,
over working him when you have a suitable option on the ground? So
I hear that. And that does make it make a lot of sense with Algier being there. I like Algier as a runner a lot. The only thing, and then we'll move on from
yes,
Bijan. The only thing I'll say, Bijan is head and shoulders a better runner than CMC ever was, in my opinion. So like
sure.
that would be the argument that like maybe they wanted to see CMC run in the NFL a few times before they kind of gave him that workload. Whereas I don't think you need to see that from Bijan. But again, I still hear you. I think it is very, very good chance that happens one way or the other. But let's move on. We'll talk about Bijan a lot over the next
Yeah.
decade, I'm sure.
Hopefully not. I mean, let's just, we know what it is. Just move on. We'll go straight to Jameer Gibbs next time
Mm,
we talk about rookie running backs. And he was the second taken as the 12th pick in the NFL draft, which
hmm
I thought was a kind of a shocker a little
It
bit.
was. It was.
pre-draft, we were like people talking about Bijan getting taken by the Bills, and
Mhm.
like, yeah, none of these guys even got close to that part of
No,
the draft.
God, no.
So it's cracking me up. But I think that the hype on Jahmyr Gibbs is a little out of control.
Hmm.
People are talking about him as like the ultimate weapon in that offense, and I think there's a potential for that to be the case. But I think that we've really seen a kind of a two-back system
Mhm.
in Detroit with Dan Campbell, and I think that bringing in David Montgomery and trying to give him more of that Jamal Williams type of role
Mhm.
gives closer to a Swift type of role. But I actually like him a lot more than Swift. Actually, I love him, and this comp is not to someone's rookie year. I love him the way that Kansas City used Jerick McKinnon last
Okay.
year. I think that's more of what we're looking for, except for more rushing utilization. And I think we're looking at 1,100 all-purpose yards for
Okay.
Gibbs as a rookie, with about 12 touchdowns. So I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing, but I can't predict how this offense runs. I know he's going to be used, but I don't think. I think they're going to vary the weapons to a degree that he won't be extremely successful year one, and probably maybe never if this team has health. I think they like to spread it out enough.
Hmm. Um, I hear you. I think I disagree.
Sure.
DeAndre Swift in 14 games got 70 targets, and I just think I don't see why Gibbs just doesn't immediately slide in. I mean, like Montgomery, to be fair, is a decent receiver himself, and he's a good runner. But like you're saying, he's there to take the Jamal Williams role. So if in 14 games Swift got 70 targets, I think Gibbs could easily get 70 in 17 games, if not more than that. And I think as long as they're feeding him the ball, he's so electric through the air. I do kind of see him as that ultimate weapon, but to me, 1,100 yards and 12 touchdowns, that's that's kind of what I want him to do.
Right.
If he adds 50 catches to that, 58 catches or something like that to that number, that's a really really good looking season. So to me, that's like what I'm expecting from him is I don't know 800 receiving yards, maybe. I guess that'd be a lot more because I'm expecting at least like 500 rushing yards. So maybe I'm expecting like 13 all 100 all-purpose yards, but not
Okay.
that crazy over 11. But I think they're going to use him a lot, man, and especially with like, I mean, Laporte is there, and we're excited about him, but we don't know how he's going to translate. We don't know older Marvin Jones. Like, there's going to be times that I think Gibbs is going to be the guy to bail them out this season.
We'll look forward to it, man. He never really was overworked as a rusher.
Mm.
And I see the passing game utilization. That's where I'm going with the Jerick McKinnon type
Yeah. Oh, for
situation.
sure.
Um, but yeah, I'll give you 1,300. I think I want to revisit. I'll remember you said that.
Okay.
I'm going 1,100.
Okay.
So,
Sounds good.
but anyway, all right, we're moving on to the third
Hmm.
drafted running back from the NFL draft at pick 52
Woo
was
woo.
Zach Charbonnet.
Mm.
Woo! This guy's going to Seattle. And man, there's no point of reference. There's no comp for this situation. What are these guys doing, man? I mean, you got Kenneth Walker. Things are going great. Things are
Hmm.
going fine. But you look at Seattle, we know Pete Carroll. It's been 3 years since this team was in the top half of the league in rush attempts.
Mm.
And I don't think Pete likes that, man. I really don't think Pete cares for that kind of shit.
Mm-mm.
So what he did was come out and get a dynamic 1-2 punch. I would guarantee they'll be in the top quarter, top 8 teams in rush attempts, if not like close to the. It's hard to get top 3 with some of
That's
these teams,
yeah, yeah.
but I think they'll be up there. Um, I think honestly in PPR leagues, I look for Charbonnet to outscore uh
Mm.
Walker just from the passing game usage. And I think, man, I want to say that he's going to get over 400 receiving yards
Okay.
this year. And I know you're thinking Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get like 1,200 receiving yards or whatever. But only 8 running backs last year had 400 or more receiving yards.
Hmm,
So we got to keep that in mind. It's kind of a lofty goal for a
that's
rookie
true.
sharing a
Yeah.
backfield with another player, but I give him that 400. I also think he's dynamic on the ground. I'll give him I'm going to go 1,000 all purpose with 8
Mm,
scores is
okay.
my, so
I hear you on that. I think they're gonna be like 1A, 1B for sure. Last time Pete Carroll had two healthy running backs for a full season, it was 2015. That was second year Chris Carson with
mm,
fourth year Mike Davis as his backup. Chris Carson had 247 attempts to 112 for Mike Davis. But Davis had 42 targets to Chris Carson's 24. I don't. I think it'd be weirdly similar, kind of. Like, I think that's kind of exactly what Pete wants to do. Have one guy who's the primary rusher. They want to run the ball down your throat. And then the other guy comes in to kind of be the change of pace receiving type guy. I think Charbonnet is better than Mike Davis. And so he could
yeah.
like get better numbers than that. But I wouldn't be shocked if it's a very, very similar number to the way he split the carries in 2015 if both these guys are healthy all year.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think he's probably looking to recreate that because there was so much success for them at that
Mm-hmm.
period of time, you know. So yeah, why not? I love it. Let's see, you ready? Ready
Yep.
to go to Kendre Miller? Can I say Kendre Miller into the microphone? He was the 71st player, fourth running back off the board in the 2023 NFL draft. And he ends
Mm-hmm.
up in New Orleans, which is a strange place to be a running back.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Jamal Williams coming to town, the rushing touchdown leader from last year. And then you've got Alvin Kamara. Enough said, possible suspension, likely suspension. And then Derek Carr, you know, who I guess is okay as far as supplementing running backs, but I'm really kind of holding back on my excitement here year one
Mm-hmm.
um with Miller just because they get a 3-year deal with Williams, paid
Mm-hmm.
him pretty good money. I think they're gonna let him establish himself
Mm-hmm.
as kind of a bruiser, you know,
Mm-hmm.
where he's successful. He's 28, so you got to get your work out of him, your money's worth
Mm-hmm.
out of him early. And Miller's kind of had some iffy injuries, so
Mm-hmm.
why not just take it a little bit slow? But I know you got plenty to say about Miller, so I'll let you have it.
Oh no, I'm basically gonna echo you very a lot. Slow burn here. Temper your expectations. I'm very high on Miller, and I think he will be worth the wait. But there is going to be a wait. He passed his physical. That's great. That's great news. He's going to start practicing, but it could still be some time before we consistently see him. The Saints have no need to rush him. Like, absolutely. We're talking about a possible Kamara suspension. I have a quote from Dennis Allen from 2 days ago, the 25th. We're basically expecting to have Alvin this year. Alvin's going to be a big part of what we do, and we're going to practice that way accordingly. We haven't heard anything from the league at all, and we're just going to focus on getting better as a football team. I don't know that suspension's coming this year. I feel like we already would have heard about it if they were going to do it this year, and I think the Saints are planning for that. So with like you said, they have Jamal Williams to be the bruiser there. They have Alvin Kamara still there. And honestly, Kendre Miller just needs to learn from Alvin Kamara to take his spot next year and be that person to Jamal Williams in 2024. Kendre Miller's only 21 years old, just turned 21, by the way, not even like gonna turn 2022 or 22 when the season starts. 21.1 years old. Slow burn, no reason to waste it. Let him get physically back and just use Kamara and Williams and let him learn from those guys. I think it'll be slow, but it'll be worth it.
Absolutely, it's going to be worth it. But yeah, don't be looking for that goal at the back of the first round because it's hardly ever there in the running back game. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So I think maybe a worse place to look for it is going to be Devin Achane. Formal apology here to Tajay Spears, the fifth drafted running back in the NFL draft. You are being omitted from this episode. We're
It's the
going straight
Derrick
to the
Henry
sixth.
effect.
Yeah, yeah, that's no doubt on that. But so yeah, sixth taken at the 84th pick. And yeah, we got a 185-pound 5'9" guy with the Dolphins, and he's quick as hell. Just matches the exact pedigree for this entire skill position group, just electric. So we'll see what goes down. I'm honestly not really expecting a bunch of pop plays, not someone you feel comfortable starting, someone you're going to be mad when they have huge weeks on your bench. Best ball darling, maybe. But definitely I'm not getting too jazzed about his situation. I'll let you possibly jump in, and then maybe if I got more to say, I'll say it.
Oh, I'm not arguing with you whatsoever. I think he's going to be extremely effective with the Dolphins, but I think they're going to wait to use him frequently because, first of all, the sporadic use for an explosive 4-3 guy like that is going to help him in the long run. Not seeing him every time, having him run out all of a sudden and then just burn a linebacker up the field who's not ready to cover a guy that does 4-3. That's kind of how you're going to help him. The other thing is they have Mostert and Wilson there. Like, they're older, aging running backs, but you want to get your money's worth out of them. You don't want to throw A-Chain in there. They pass the ball a lot. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense to try and like force him in there. And then additionally, why not use him in the return game? 2 kick return touchdowns in college for the Aggies out of A&M. And now you have a guy who has a home run speed on every side of your fucking team. You got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle on offense. You got the speed to take advantage on defense. And now you have a kick returner that could take it to the house every time while you're waiting for him to kind of take over as that RB1 eventually. I think it makes too much sense to use him exactly how you're saying. Big boom weeks, maybe best ball is the best place for Devin A-Chain's rookie season. And then again, we'll see who he is. I think he's going to be exciting to watch, but I'm with you. I don't think he's going to be like a rookie darling running back.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be like a Mike McDaniel's secret weapon kind of guy. Mm-hmm. So he's going to have some highlight reel stuff, but nothing consistent. And I think it's going to be really cool. It's just not going to be like, it's going to be pain in your ass to roster this guy. Good luck figuring it out. I hope I'm wrong. I'd love to watch him just run over the NFL, but
that'd be fun.
Yeah, I think we're going to see some cool shit.
Yeah,
but watch it on the TV, not in your lineup.
That's fair. Yeah. And we have these guys in fantasy. They're all the time. So hard to figure out, but so fun to watch. But also, there you have it. There are our realistic rookie expectations. We're going to be back at it next week. Like I said, we're going to wrap up a little earlier than normal, a little less long-winded for us, but we'll hit you back next week. Any preview for next week for them?
Yeah, we're going to look at new coaches and their landing spots. Could be OCs or head coaches. And I think we're just going to try to do a little deep dive and see if we can crystal ball forecast and see if some fantasy nuggets, like a little bit of secret history, is going to help us position ourselves to get ahead of the breakouts.
All right. That sounds super exciting. Well, until then, we've been Rough Draft Research. You've been the audience, and we'll see you next week.
Hell yeah. Take care.
On